Hey, this is Eric and Stephanie with Productivity Advocates. Here's another segment of what comes out of a mechanic's mind with a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. And this is Stephanie, and she is our analytical genius and does a great job with that. So here we go. This week is all about change management and how to apply the teachings and the processes that we've talked about with all the different podcasts to the work environment. So here we go. Change management is an interesting situation because there's a lot of people that will go into an organization and say, this is the best way, this is the best processes, but they don't understand that there's a human element that can't be controlled uh, with just numbers and with processes. There is, communication and organization that needs to happen for change management to really take a hold, but you have to really identify the human element so the changes can get to take place and be effective. So let's get into it, Stephanie.
So in the article, we talked about the car metaphor. Can you talk more about that?
So yeah, there is so many different things with the car metaphor within how change management um, how it works because you can look at it as a couple different aspects of it. If if a driver, imagine if a driver was trying to do everything that an engine did to try and just transport him from one location to another. That's not even possible. I mean, the all the moving parts, the mechanisms, the machines, the communication, the sensors. I mean, there is so many aspects to a car. I mean, if you think about it, a car has a four-cylinder car at idle has roughly about 4,000 explosions per minute. And then if you go down the freeway, that could triple up to 12,000 explosions per minute. How would a driver ever be able to produce the power to be able to get, to transport that vehicle? The only way it would be is go and push the vehicle from behind. And, that's not going to be very effective. And you're not going to go very far by yourself, especially if you hit a hill going up. And so that's one of the metaphors that we talk about is, you're the driver of the vehicle. You have all the gauges, you have everything. All you need to do is fuel the vehicle and guess what? Turn it on and realize that there's um, a lot of people there that you've hired to be able to do all those uh, mechanical things that makes the organization power forward. You need to let them do that. And but you as a leader need to sit back and watch the gauges and power them and create the right environment for them to thrive.
Yeah, I agree. What advice would you give leaders who are trying to figure out the change management?
Number one thing, involve your employees that you are trying to help with the production in a certain area. If those leaders or if those employees see that you want to involve them and you want them to be able to direct their environments, they need to be involved in it. And I'm not saying 100% because there is something that you have as a leader. You have all the information. You are the coach. You are the leader. And so being that you have all the information, then you have to work with them, but take their advice, their input, and say, okay, now we need to bring the two together and make it a productive environment. If you just go in and tell somebody that this is the way that we're going to do it and don't get their input, it's almost like a slap to the face because they're like, well, this is my environment. You hired me because of my specialty in this environment. and now you want to come just direct and say, this is the best way, this is the best processes. I had a really good friend that and he got a really nice job that is a very, um, a high-end job that he made very good money, and he got hired. And in the hiring process, he asked them and said, if I come on, I have a certain way that I like to do it that's comfortable for me. I still meet the numbers, I do everything, and I still involve you 100%, but I have a certain process that I like to do. Am I able to have that freedom to have that process as long as I'm making my benchmarks? And they're, oh yeah, they promised it everything. It took a full year to do the trainings that they required of him. And at the trainings, they're like, okay, now this is what you do. And he's like, oh, wait a minute. You said I would have the freedom to do this. And they said, no, this is the best way that we found that your processes work for your situation and for you. Oh, he quit. He did not want to be that way. They did not follow through with their promises. I mean, how in the world did they think that he was going to thrive? And why would they tell him that they would, you know, do all this stuff and then also pay him for a full year? They just wasted so much money. And 2 years, honestly, because now they have to train another person for another year to be able to fill that spot. So they just wasted 2 years because they wouldn't simply work with the person. I don't understand why would that has a lot of money to waste.
When I mean, they took his steering wheel away. He had this process and they took it away from him. I'm like,
Yeah.
how would he feel?
Yep, absolutely. And the power, his power, his drive to want to drive that organization and do what his responsibilities were, they completely took it away from him. And I've had 2 or 3 jobs that they've done that exact same thing. And it's like, but I'm the I'm the one that powers this part of the environment. I'm not trying to do anything wrong, and I'm actually trying to bring profits up, but they were so stuck on their processes that they couldn't see beyond. And one of the teams totally failed and was disbanded. The other one, it was a state-run agency, and you know, it's they don't care. Sadly, they just don't care. So,
Yeah. Why do you think leaders sometimes make grand promises and then reverse that promise?
or don't follow through with it. That's that's the interesting thing about it because there was that one situation that I was in. When they hired me, they told me all sorts of good things. I did what I could as far as research, but being that it was a new team, I couldn't do as much of my due diligence that I should have or could have. And the things that they said, um, it was a sales environment. And they told me up front, they're like, this is how much sales our average salesman's doing. And I'm like, great. So if I push, I can get to the average or above. 2 months into it, I was the top salesman and I had sold what about just above what their average was from what he said. And when I did that, they said, you just sold more than the whole group sold. And I was like, oh my. You told me in the interview that that's what the average salesperson was selling. And I just did that and I made the top number for the whole group of 6 salesmen. Yeah, they misrepresented it beyond. And that's what a lot of people do to try and get you to buy in is make all these grand promises and don't follow through. As a self-esteem builder, for somebody that you want to build into an organization and bring in there and to be positive, that is detrimental. That just lost all trust within that organization of trying to create the right environment for us to really thrive. And so that's a horrible example of somebody promising and not delivering. And when it came down to it, they didn't deliver hardly anything. And therefore, the team disbanded. That leader was an excellent salesman. I've got to give it to them about that. but a horrible leader. And it did not turn out well for them. And once again, that organization lost a lot of revenue and a lot of money just put into that because they didn't support the initiative that they did after they got it all organized.
Under what conditions do you think it's justified to make a change of course quickly?
It's all about adapting to situations. I mean, if you think about that previous change management that they had or that team, if they would have realized that their big thing was they wanted to have people sell in a team environment. So they wanted two salesmen to go to every organization. Well, in that, they did not share the compensation between the two. It wasn't a salary thing. It was all about um, commission sales. And so they could have pivoted and said, okay, we realize this isn't working. We're going to just have one salesman per person go out and go from there. Instead, they just kept on, nope, team sales environment, that's where it's at. And it's like, actually, it's not. And especially how it was structured. But they didn't want to pivot and they were proud and didn't see that it's like, hey, things need to do it. And as change initiatives do work, there is a trial and error process that sometimes it just doesn't work and they have to go back and think. I've had cars that sometimes eluded me um, the problems that they were having. I spent a month and a half on one recently that it was for a lean code is what it was called. And I kept going at all these other things. And one of the first things that you try and diagnose with a lean code is the fuel pump. That should have been the number one thing that I went to is fuel pressure and fuel pump. And I just kept going on all this other stuff, cost me tons of time. And finally, I'm like, I'm just going to test fuel pressure. Fuel pressure was completely low. It wasn't the easiest process to test fuel pressure, but it would have been way easier than wasting all that time. And so sometimes you have to step back, and that's okay. I mean, we're humans trying to create a process that makes things better. It's a trial and error. It's just listening to the employees, listening to the statistics or um, the results and seeing if they're working and if they're not. And if they're not working, stop, reevaluate, and move on. I mean, you have to do that in every situation, and eventually it'll turn out if you allow it um, to realize that you are human.
Hmm. Have you ever seen a change initiative fail because leadership tried to force a best practice without adapting to the context?
Oh, absolutely. This happens all the time. I've seen it in school districts. There was a school district that I interviewed that for their counselors, we were having troubles with the counselors. So we went to the district and we started talking to them. And we're like, hey, what initiatives do you have to help the kids to be more looking towards their future? Because they can get a lot of college credit in high school. Oh, this counselor, the head person over the counselors for the district, it's like, oh, we've got this great initiative that we've been pushing for about 2 years, and it's this, this, and this. And so then I went and interviewed the counselors, and I'm like, so what about this initiative? On average, this is from the counselors. On average, they change these initiatives every 2 to 3 years. So they never give it the power or the time to really come into place. And so they come to us every 2 to 3 years. This is the new one. This is a new one. Well, it never got time. So the counselors are like, we just wait because we know that the new one's coming and we're going to try to get all excited and try and implement it. But every 2 to 3 years on average, they change it to try and make it do it. They never give it time. The initiatives that they are trying to do, they're good ones. I mean, honestly, they're good ones, but they're not bought in because they never talk to the counselors about it. They only come from the top down and say, this is what we're doing. and then they change it every 2 to 3 years. So where's the trust for the counselors with the school district to be able to see those changes to actually take place? There's none. So they're just like, no, we do our own thing. We don't really have much support from our leaders within the school district because we know they're going to change. And so we're not going to do anything with it. They won't engage in it at all. And so that was one of them. And there's another one that this organization came in and they started putting all of these empowering words all over the walls. We trust you. We have, we want to empower your environments. And I interviewed the leadership and the employees, and that initiative only stayed for about 90 days because the employees um, were of the opinion that they actually got more micromanaged and didn't get any benefit from the initiatives that they did. After this, I talked to the organization. I'm like, so can I come in and help? And they're like, we can't hire consultants anymore. We don't have the budget. And it's like, wow, you need some help. And that's why change management's important. The big part about change management is it's leaders have a ton of roles and responsibilities. For a true change management to take place, it needs to be from an outside source or it needs to be from a nonpartisan person within the organization that can focus on the results, help people to be accountable, especially leadership. And I think we'll go into that a little bit more as we go on.
So, with the leadership, what small but powerful behaviors should they practice to steer the change?
So, as I've told you before, leaders are the ones that have the full gauges. They have all the information within the organization. They have with all that information, they can direct the change management to take place through utilizing trust with their employees. If the employees don't feel like they have a secure environment to be able to thrive, they will never take it and run with it because they don't trust what the um, leadership will do with it. And why are they doing it? Most leaders are just focused on numbers rather than people, and that's actually dehumanizing the employees because numbers, yeah, you do need to have your numbers. And as a leader, those are something that should probably stay private to you. I had one organization that in their break room, they had a screen that told them all about their profits, their losses, and would almost blame the employees for their losses. And it's like, that's way too much information. I mean, as an employee, I don't want to honestly know all the profits and losses and where it's all going because I have zero control over that. Why would I need to know that things? If I was a CFO, absolutely, but as an employee, I don't need to have all that information. That's not my gauges. I'm there to do a specific roles and responsibilities, not to worry about were we going to be able to pay rent? We're losing this much money. It's like, you're the leader. You have all that information. Don't put that uh, on the employees. That is not fair because they can't control that. They just go and do their job. And if you don't create that right environment for them to thrive, then that's on you, not on the employees.
Yeah. One that reminds me of when I was playing basketball in high school. The girls were obsessed with their stats and their numbers, that it wasn't a team sport anymore. It was how can I get my stats up and how can I make myself look better?
Ah, yeah, and that's then them just focusing on themselves without being in a team. Yeah, and in basketball, it has to be a team. You have to work together as a team. Not good point.
So the article site talks about, or the article's research shows that involving employees help shape in changing the work environment leads to higher adaptability and satisfaction. What are effective ways to involve the employees?
Well, for one, you need to have all the information and see that your work environment is not productive, and that people aren't engaged. And so, for first, um, you need to see that there is an issue because sometimes employees won't even see that there's an issue, and they don't understand that there's a problem. If they don't understand there's a problem, then how can they buy into it? Another point is if there is a problem, then I'd be discussing it with the employees to see what their opinions are and take the constructive thoughts that come from them because a lot of people, a lot of leaders don't want to hear that the leader could be the problem or the workplace could be the problem or they don't have the right programs to help them to be able to do their job. I mean, there's so many different aspects, and every job environment is completely different because it has the human variable element to it that you have to take into consideration. Some people work really great in an office setting. Some people work a lot better in a remote setting. And it's to each individual for an organization come and say, this is all we have, and this is the only way that you can thrive is by working in these cubicles. I wouldn't do well in a cubicle. I honestly wouldn't. I would need my own space. And I'm not saying that I need my own office, but that's where remote working comes in. There's so many different aspects that you could look at to help create the right environment to work that leaders need to look at it and say, hey, if this person could stay home and create the right work environment, how much more productive would they be? Yeah, maybe they like to work at night and they have the ability to be able to do that, and that's their time that they thrive. Great, as long as their metrics are met. Um, and their roles and responsibilities, what's the problem with letting them create their own environment? Um, and then as far as leaders allowing them to um, do it in their own little way, there's uh, there's always a way to get to a certain um, let's to a certain outcome. And a leader might have an idea, but the person that's actually doing the work would probably be the best idea because they're the ones that are in it, and that's how their mind works. I've had different mechanics that are very good at different things. Some mechanics are super good at taking an all engine apart. There's other mechanics that I would never allow to do that. They just do not have the organization. They don't have the memory, and it's nothing against them. It's just how their mind works. And that's when leaders need to take in consideration each individual to be able to do that, but also keep their work environment at a steady, organized place that, the people can adapt to as well. And that's where communication and organization can really come into play.
What risks and downsides are there to involving broad employee involvement?
Oh, that's a good point because employees don't have all the information. And so, being that they don't have all the information, they really need to focus on their workplace, their work environment, and what they do. Some employees want to go out and do other things. My wife worked in a work environment that she managed a local pool, and her leader was supposed to be just over recreation. That guy had his hand in everything within the city that should have been more in a city manager position. And I think he was aspiring to that, but he didn't realize that he needed to just stay in his lane and work on recreation because it was lacking. It was horrible. The work environment was very toxic. The trust wasn't there. There was so many different things that I just sat back and watched and I'm like, this could be so easy, but they're trying to take responsibilities to other areas. And so people through communication and organization within a corporation, that's where people know their boundaries and they need to know them. Leadership needs to be, no, that's this person we need you to focus on here. But some leaders are like, I need you to be more agile and take on all these roles and responsibilities. It's like, no, you need to be able to focus and do it. I look at it as a car. Once again, a car engine. The car engine has so many different mechanical devices to make it uh, power you and transport you from one location to another. You have the engine. The engine has multiple components to be able to direct or to power the car to where it needs to be. It has pistons, it has valves, it has a carburetor or a fuel injection that has to bring in fuel and air. Everything has to be organized to make it work. If the timing is just so far off, it won't power at all. And so everything has to be organized and everything has its right role and responsibility. One part can't do the part of another to be able to power the vehicle forward. I believe that's true in an organization as well. If everything is organized and very um, and communicates well, then it powers forward. If there is a problem with productivity, then there's a productivity light that comes on, and that's where a leader needs to take account and say, "Oh, why?" And not blame, but just simply ask questions and go and do the investigation, if you want to call it, to see why. You have a human element, you have communication and organization that you can look at. You can look at your organizational charts. There's so many different aspects that a leader could do where blaming shouldn't ever be a part of it. Learn from the past to help direct the future to be able to adapt to today's environment.
If you had to design an ideal change engine for any organization, what 4 to 6 principles or practices would you insist on?
First, first diagnose the actual problem. If there's not a problem and if you don't have an assessment of the actual problem, then how do you know that there is a problem and where it lies? Second is involve the people that are involved within that area. As a leader, you should have a little bit of an idea of what everybody does to a point, but you shouldn't be in everybody's business. I mean, that's beyond you. That's the trust issues, and that could be part of the problem with the productivity, is that there's, very big lack of trust. Then as you do figure out the problem, as you do talk to the employees, then come up with a change management initiative that takes into account um, the thoughts from the people that are involved within the department, with the manager, really have a team that is organized together that will uh, keep accountability to see that the changes go through and adapt if something needs to change, and then track it. I mean, the final thing is tracking it. Then really the final thing is give it time. Give the time to do it. So change management initiatives can take months, even up to years, to really be able to see noticeable changes to the environment. And so you have to give it time and you have to be able to adapt to each situation. If you go on a road trip and you have an tire blowout, that's going to cost you time and you have to adapt to the situation. Hopefully you have a spare tire and hopefully that spare tire is full of air. Can't tell you how many times I've seen it on the side of the freeway that somebody puts a spare tire on and there is no air in that spare tire. Well, you're not going to go very far with no air in a spare tire.
What warning signs that the change initiative is going off the rails?
So we have something that we talk about is indicators. People put off the indicators of something that's wrong. And as a leader, if you walk in a room and people start looking down or they start trying to act busy, they try to leave the room and to get out of the situation. Well, there's one sign for sure. As a leader, you should never have an intimidating or angry approach to that people have fear when you come in the room. So there's one indicator. Also, how do you track your productivity? There's the biggest thing is, are you tracking productivity or is it just something that's on the back of your mind that's like we should, but how are you actually tracking it? Are you using an outside source? Are you using the inside? Um, there's all sorts of ways to be able to do it. There's one person that they would track productivity. They had a system in place. They were doing awesome with it, and the organization was being super profitable. They hired a new CEO, and the CEO um, was not being productive and was actually creating an environment that people weren't thriving. And their system for tracking productivity was showing it. Well, he disbanded that tracking, and there was a lot of key people that were in that organization that were doing really well that ended up leaving it because of that leader, just simply because of that leader. And they didn't see it. He didn't see it, and they didn't, and the organization went down, profits went down, everything went down because he didn't want to be accountable for his actions in productivity. All he had to do was keep it going. I mean, to come in and to be that arrogant to say, "Oh, I can do better," without the productivity tracking, I can do better. No, he did worse. So,
Have you seen or experienced a change that felt sustainable and healthy, but then just caused burnout?
oh yeah, this is in our book, Driving Engagement. This is a principle that we talk about different drive modes because if you have a different leadership style, if you are always on a leadership style that is always demanding and trying to keep people at um, unrealistic expectations, then it'll burn them out. And it's like racing a car. If you continue to just race that car and never do the proper maintenance, that car is not going to do well and it's going to, eventually break down. You can't be in race mode all the time. You have to be in different types of modes, like servant type leadership. Um, I really like transitional or situational style leadership because it's for the situation that's at hand. And as a leader, you have all that information that you can change the leadership style because sometimes you just have to have a transaction and you have to be a transactional leadership and something has to be done. But then you have to back off and stop. And most people are actually transactional leadership that they just know this is how it's going to be done. I have unrealistic expectations, and you have to conform to them because I pay your paycheck. They're not fueling the team first, they're fueling it after, and they only give it a partial amount of fuel to be able to get to their, end product. And then they keep it going and they never back off. There's actually quite a few leaders that are just so worried about the numbers, once again, dehumanizing their employees because they are transactional leadership and that's all they are. They won't transition to any other type.
As we're coming to a close, do you have any advice or final advice for leaders or employees?
The reason why I established productivity advocates is actually to build mental health within the workplace. If you naturally build mental health in the workplace by being a leader that is a situational style leader that, at the time that it needs, be a servant type leader, um, you treat the people in your work environment as human beings, as people that have strived to build their own experience, their skills, abilities, their talents. You're utilizing everything that they are. And if they feel secure in their work environment, they are going to be productive and they're going to have the opportunity to do a lot of things for you. And in turn, that develops profits because people love working for somebody that sees them as a human being. And if you create the right environment that's organized, then they're like, okay, this is what they expect of us. And they've created the right culture for us to thrive. Now we can just go and we can just go and work. We don't have to worry about all this other things, the drama that persists on giving too much information to your employees. Hey, these are our profits and losses. This is all your fault as an employee. You can't blame them. As a leader, you have all that information to be able to really produce the right profits. It's through organization and communication. It's just like an engine. You got to fuel it first and then let the engine go. And just do. You control the gas, you control the brakes. You see all the gauges. You shift it into drive. Sometimes you need to shift it into park or even in reverse to see what you did in the past that's not working to be able to put it in drive to truly see, your course on the roadmap of your organization. And if you allow yourself to do that and to be a humble leader, that will indirectly create profits. But the biggest thing is you'll be able to help people truly believe in who they are so that they can thrive because they spend 70% of their work or their days in your environment. Why not create a right environment for people to truly thrive and to be who they are? Because people are great if you allow them to be.
There's also that quote, uh, if you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you like your environment, it doesn't feel like work.
Yep. And that's, we've talked about Aristotle's um, quote. And um, sorry, I should have had it in front of me. I didn't think about it. Pleasure in the work puts perfect, or pleasure in the job puts perfection in the work. And so it's true. It's been there for thousands of years. That's quotes 1,000 years old. So, so yeah. So just leaders, just look at people as people and don't dehumanize them just through numbers. That's not fair to them. They work hard for you. Yes, they do get a paycheck. They do get rewarded for what they do. But think about what you get from all these great people that work for you and the opportunity that you have to create a great working environment. Therefore, and that will actually go to the outward customer service, and then your customers will be more happy. It's a win-win for everybody to create a great organized work environment that will allow people to thrive. So, okay. Well, thank you for your time today, Stephanie, and we'll talk again.